Oh, here we go. We've got the neck with its filler stripping that we over the truss rod, which we did yesterday. Couple of things here. Just handy. You know, when you cut the neck to its taper, it's good to keep the scrap bits of wood, because then you can clamp it up in the vise or something like that. But I take this down just quite simply with a plane. There we go. That's nearly down to the level, but I don't want the plane to catch the neck wood. So what I use now is just a slightly curved cabinet scraper to scrape the. You can see what a nice shaving a cabinet scraper takes. I love cabinet scrapers. So now we're not risking catching the neck with a plane. Nearly there. You can see what the knock this little bit on the edge down. So now we've got the filler stripping nicely, nice and flat. So fretboard on it, and not long now, so looking quite good. And there we go. What do we do next? I think I'll set up to do the fretboard camber, and I'll show you how we do that. I'll do that. Right, hi there. I'm radiusing this fretboard now and getting it to an almost finished state, because once you get frets in it, you can't do anything to it basically. So what I started doing, I run my plane up either side of it just to start the taper off, but that was pretty unsuccessful, because what you don't want, I could see I was getting light, you know, it was chipping the wood away, which I definitely didn't want. That is that's a really bad start to doing a fretboard. So anyway, what I've done, I've got it, I didn't want to do that, damn. What I've done is I've super glued it to this block of wood here, which is dead flat, mounted it in the vise, and instead of using the plane to do it, I'm using a radiused sanding block. Now funny thing is with these radius sanding blocks is I don't like them very much, because they tend to actually over curve it. If you use a 12-inch radius one, which this is, it tends to take the edges down more than the center. I think it's because, you know, when you're going over it, you can't help but, you know, put a bit more, you know, with it, wobble it a bit, and you tend to take a little bit more off. So I actually use the back of it so it's square, and just go over it and get the vice done up first, and basically just like feel a curve in it. Now I have a 12-inch radius fretting call thing, you know, to press in frets on a 12-inch radius, and I use that to judge, you know, where I am. You can see pretty damn close there really, as we go up. I'm used to doing it, sort of thing. What you've got to be careful of, actually this is a bit over radiused here, but you know, I can easily correct that. What you've got to be careful of, and it's got to go down a bit more as well, because at the end here, you know, the widest part of the fretboard, you tend to get the edges down, and then the middle stays flat. So you want a consistent 12-inch radius over all that. So I've got a bit more to go yet. So, and like I say, I start off with quite a damn coarse piece of sandpaper to make it quicker, but I've basically done this whole curve by sandpaper rather than the plane, because I do not want any chips out of it. And one good thing to do, that's why I was a bit annoyed at myself when I took this out of the vise, was you want to save some of this dust off the fretboard, because if you need to do any fill-in, say an inlay or something like that goes a bit wrong, then it's handy to have the same dust. But I can feel that's a very consistent radius now, and there's still just a fraction of a flat at the end here. That's really good, and that's pretty damn good. Well, we're really good there now. So what I'll do is I'll run down grades of sandpaper and get this cleaned up, but there's no chips out of it at all, and if I'd have used the plane on it, there'd have been a few chips and I'd have had to fill it, but you know, that's why I've used sandpaper. So I'll go down the grades a bit and get back to you. Well, here we go. Here's the fretboard now sanded down to 400 grit, and there's no chips, no marks, no anything. What I've also done is I've recut the fret slots, because obviously when you do the you know, the radiusing, you know, you're reducing the depth of the fret slot effectively. So now all the fret slots, I don't know if you can see, a consistent depth. This saw has a landing there, so you can't go too deep. So that fretboard now, and it's also, as well as being absolutely spot on with the radius, and that's perfect. I've got one of these notched edges, but it's also absolutely dead flat, so we're all good with that. Now it's ready, basically ready for fretting, so we can get on with the other one. Oh, this was stuck down well. So there we go, there's a nice fretboard now. Just be really careful, obviously, when you're doing a fretboard, like it's, you know, it's the heart of the guitar, and you don't want to make any cock-ups really, you know, so I think we're absolutely fine with that. And there we go. So now, like I say, I don't like finishing the neck to width. I prefer to get the fretboard on and then use the edge of the fretboard to finish off the neck when I'm shaping it. But I suppose it goes, there's the nut line there, it goes there, so that's fine. So we can get on with the other one now and it will be good. Well, hi there again. We've got the fretboards basically done now, which is quite a relief. So we've got them both radiused and everything. I've cleaned out the fret slots again, run the saw through them, get all the dust out of them, get them the right depth. One thing I think you want to get right on these, I mean, the boards were quoted as having to be 5.7 millimeters thick. Now that's obviously the thickness in the center, but then at the edges, on my Les Paul drawing, it's quoted as being 4.7 millimeters, or is it 4.4 millimeters. Now I've got them down to 4.5 millimeters, okay, 0.2 mil different, but it's obviously going to vary. Where you've got at this end, it's going to be at the nut end, it's going to be thicker, and at the body end, it's going to be thinner, because, you know, because of the curve of the fretboard. There's not so much width at the nut end, so the curve is going to be less at the edges, if you like. I don't know how to explain it, but you know what I mean. You're not going so far around the circle, so it's going to be slightly thicker at the nut end than the body end. But what I've done basically is I've sanded the back of the boards, and I'm pretty consistent. Now I'm, well, near as damn it, like I'm about 4.7 millimeters at that end, and at this end 4.5 millimeters, so we're about right. But the thing is, I like that edge to look right, if you like. If it's too thick, it just won't look like a Gibson sort of thing. That's, you know, I know there's no binding on it like a Les Paul, but you know, you want it a realistic thickness. A lot of people nowadays tend to put really thick fretboards on, and I just dislike that as a look sort of thing. So yep, so we're all kind of good on that now, and next job, I'm not sure what we'll be doing next. I suppose getting the marker dots in. The marker dots, I don't think they'd be mother of pearl. I think they'd be nitrate, what is it, celluloid stuff, which I've got some of that, and I can make some 7mm dots out of it. I'm sure it would be that rather than mother of pearl, but I mean it looks basically the same. But yeah, we've got some of that. So I think next step is getting that in and sorting out the, I mean, on here they've got on this thing they've got the marking, you know, where the dots go, and they've got the 12 dot spacing, and I don't know what that's meant to be on this guitar. I've never seen a quote for it. I know they're wide, and these are something like, let's have a look, see what it is, see if it makes any sense in inches. Well, that it kind of really makes sense, because they've got on this exactly 1.5 inch spacing on these dots on the 12th fret. So here's the 12th fret here, so 1.5, you know, that really looks sensible. I'm inclined to believe that. I mean, everything else has been correct on these templates, so I think 1.5 inch spacing there at the 12th fret is probably dead right. So anyway, oh God, excuse me. I'm going to go in and have a sit down and a cup of coffee, and this has been hard work sanding these buggers. But I think you'll agree now we've got a couple of really nice looking fretboards on there, and you know, it won't be long now before we'll get it to look like a guitar. Thank you. Right, here's stroke of genius for making marker dots. I've got this sheet of plastic which is actually celluloid nitrate, so it's the right stuff for the era. We need 7mm dots. Now, so what I've done is, in this probably like 3/16 piece of mild steel, I've drilled a 7mm hole with this drill. I've turned the drill upside down and put it in the drill press, so it will actually like go through that hole there. Get your sheet, put it on there. Takes a bit of push, but what comes out of the bottom? A marker dot. Cool, eh? And the width of that marker dot, 7.02mm. Absolutely perfect. So really chuffed with that, and I can knock out 20 of those in no time. What you have to do is, like on the bottom of most drills, on the butt end of the drill if you like, opposite the point, they are kind of rounded over at the top, which is no good. You'll end up pushing a blistered kind of marker dot out. But grind that off nice and square. Probably even if you ground it off at an angle, it would be better, because it would cut, you know, rather than trying to push the whole thing through. But never mind. Anyway, so that's it now, and we can. The only problem is it's a bit of a bugger to get the what's it out, so it tends to stick, and the drill being the wrong way up and the thing doesn't. But bearing in mind, okay, now we've made the dots, we're getting prepared to put them in. What I do actually to position the dots is I draw diagonals from the fret edges, fret ends across both ways, and that finds the centre. Do that for every position, and then I run a long rule down the centre as well, just to double check it. You can see, I've got like diagonal lines and vertical ones, if you can see it on there. So centre line up the fretboard just to check after doing the diagonals, and obviously you've got to do special case for the 12th fret ones. I've got those spaced at 1.5 inches, and I've done a test 7mm hole here just in the scrap at the end of the fretboard, just to get the right depth for the dots. I think that's fine. They'll just go in there lovely. So yeah, we'll get drilling now, and I've put, like I say, I've done the depth stop, so I'm not going to drill through anywhere, but I use the Brad point drill just because it's more accurate kind of, and I centre punch the holes on here as well, so I'll have to drill the 12th fret ones deeper, you know, because of the curve of the fretboard sort of thing, but I'll do that afterwards. I'll do all the centre dots while I've got the depth stop in there. Okay, there's all the holes done, and now we can get on and glue the marker dots in. Well, I'm going to call it a day now, and just to summarise, here's what we've got now. We've got the two necks, you know, ready to receive the fretboards. We're getting up to speed with the fretboards. I've just glued these dots in now. I haven't filed them down yet, obviously. They look a bit messy, but I just use super glue to hold the dots in. Just put a blob in the bottom and then tap them down, and I think they look nice, and I'm sure they're correct, being celluloid nitrate. So there we go. Next job, I think, is probably either going to be putting in the side dots. That's quite simple really, or and fretting. Now I'm going to fret these before I glue them on. I mean, it's half a dozen of one, 6 of the other. Some people glue the fretboard on, then put the frets in. As they're Brazilian rosewood and very hard, I want it flat, and then I can press the fret in and check them all and everything like that, just to be on the, you know, just to give myself the best possible chance of the best fretting. You know, I think we're really good really here now, and getting on like a house on fire. So let's rock and roll, pack in, and I'll be back with you tomorrow. Cheers. Hello and welcome back to 3R Guitars and this these 58V builds. Here's one of the necks that one of the fretboards that now we glued the dots in yesterday. I've sanded them back now, and you can see they look really nice. They actually look, to my eye, a little bit more vintage than if you put pearl dots in them. So we're going to sand this back, and it's now to get to the same state. Very easy job, but make sure you always sand with the grain, otherwise you'll end up with scratches across the grain, and for goodness sake, put these dots in before you put the frets in. So we'll get on and sand this back, and then I'll show you them both finished. Well, we've got the two of them now. I'll just get the other one. We've got the two of them now with the dots sanded back, and they're looking really, really nice. Now, one thing, you know, when you do fretboards, what you're continually doing at most stages is cleaning the fret slots, and just get the fret saw and or a scalpel and clean it out. But one thing I do actually, I mean, you know, you can clean the fret slots out just with the back of a blade of a scalpel. One thing I actually do with the fret slots, especially in hard wood like Brazilian rosewood or ebony, and really it's nice to do it in maple as well, may as well make a habit of it, is actually get a triangular file and just go put it in the fret slot and just do a few rubs with the file across it, just to put a bit of a chamfer on it, and that serves two purposes. It makes it easy to get the fret in because there's a little bit of a ramp, but also you know, where you've sawn the fret slot, I mean, there's a chance that you'll have a little bit of raised wood there on the edge, and it just takes that off, so it makes sure that the fret will go flat. So what I'm going to do now is the laborious task of making sure these fret slots are all the right depth, so it's back out with the saw again, and then doing the little chamfer that I said, and then we should be ready for frets. Because I mean, I can see on the edge here some of these fret slots aren't as deep as they should be, as a 2 or 3, so yeah, it's going to be back to being boring with frets. Okay, here's the fret wire I'm going to be using. Basically, I've done now all the fretboards, checked everything, and please do, you know, if you're making one, it's the heart of the guitar. And I noticed when I was doing this one that just at the end here the radius wasn't consistent, it was going like flat in the middle, so I re-sanded it a little bit and everything, just to make sure everything was nice. Now I've got all the fret slots down at the proper depths, any that were slightly high. In fact, I can see one there that's still a bit high, so I'll have to revisit that again. Oh, but it is like this with fret slots all the time. Just make sure they're perfect, otherwise you'll end up you know, the tang of the fret, the barbed bit, you know, will hit the bottom of the slot before the actual shoulders of the fret squash onto the fretboard. Now, when you actually put frets in a radius fretboard, you don't want to leave the frets like flat. You want to curve the fret wire, and if you try and do it with your hands, it's okay, but you don't get it. Sometimes the last thing you want is like a sharp bend, a kink. So my old dad made me this thing, and you can push the fret wire through. I mean, it's quite Heath Robinson sort of thing, but I love using the old tools that he made me, so I'm happy with the thing. And I could buy a commercially available one, but you know, I'll show you how it works quite easily. I mean, he did put a handle on it so you can wind the frets, but it's all gone a bit loose. It needs sorting. But the wheel's got a slot cut around the perimeter of it, and you just engage the tang of the fret wire in that slot, and there's guide wheels on here that turn, so just engage that in the slot, push it through, just wind it through, and you get a nice curl. And what that does, okay, it's quite an exaggerated curve, well, a little bit exaggerated curve, but at least it means that the edge of the frets get really shoved down into the edges of the fretboard, which is what you want. Now I'll take you over to my fret press, or I'll use my drill, and we'll go from there, show you how I do it. So here we go. I've got my fret press in the drill press here. It'd probably be nice to actually get a purpose-built fret squasher. So you've got these different radius brass, whatever you call them, presser things, which go in this holder here. So I've got the 12-inch radius one in there to match the fretboard. Now basically I run the saw through the fret slot again just before I do it, and you know, you're really probably better off starting at the longer frets. In case you cut one short, you can always put it, you know, one further down, but I don't know, I just start at the shorter ones because that's fret number 1, but it's entirely up to you. And what I do is put the fret in the slot, make sure it's in there, and just give it a light tap, make sure it's set okay width-wise, and give it a slight tap just to locate the ends in. And then once the ends are in, you can give it a squash, and you get your fret pressed in. Now I can see that it hasn't entirely seated very well, so walk the press and we get in there with that one. I mean, you might have to knock the odd edge down sort of a little bit more, sort of thing, but what I'm going to do is actually tip this so it's not over the hole. There we go. Now that one's absolutely gone in perfect there, which is really nice. You don't want to be able to slip anything underneath the fret, obviously. I mean, if you've got a bit of paper and you try to push it underneath and it went underneath there, then the fret's not pressed in properly. I'll do the other. Yeah, we're absolutely perfect with that one. Hope you can see it, but all the way down and in there, and that's what you're really aiming for. If you were doing your first guitar, I would really recommend, say, doing a maple fretboard or something softer. Ebony and Brazilian rosewood like this you need some experience to do the fretting properly. It's a real bitch sometimes when the frets don't go in, but if the frets don't go in, something is wrong. Don't persevere and just hit it harder or squash harder. If they don't go in, you've got the wrong size saw, you've got the, you know, something is wrong. The fret slot's not deep enough. So don't sit there, swear and hammer harder, but go away, think about it, come back another day and then have another go. So we'll get on now. So okay guys, after a long time I've got this fretted, and like I was saying, it's not an enjoyable process, I don't think, fretting Brazilian rosewood. It is so tough, and if you're doing your first fret job, don't use it. It's a trial by fire, I think, if you did. I mean, I've got all the frets in nice and flat and things like that, but it's a very brittle and hard wood, and you know, if you have to do too much, for want of better words, fucking around with a fret to get it in, it just won't stick in, you know, and yet they're impossible to press in almost. But you know, what I suppose I should talk a little bit about, do you glue frets in or don't glue them in? I know some people put tight bond in the bottom of the fret slots and press the fret in, things like that. that's fine. It's no problem at all. I wouldn't do it with Brazilian rosewood though, because you know, it's enough of a fight getting the frets in without having an extra complication of glue spreading everywhere and making a mess. What I'm going to do now is, after a cup of coffee, is on these fret edges, I have the board upside down, and I'm going to get some runny super glue and just put a drip over each end, and that will wick through the fret slot and glue the frets in. That's what I do, and I know some people don't like putting super glue on them, but I do. I find it, you know, you at least you're fretting it clean without any glue at the time, and then just introducing a bit of glue later. So yeah, we'll go from there. It's coffee time now, and yeah, I'll be back. Not very exciting stuff, I know, but I'm just doing the first part here. I've got the fretboard lightly clamped in the vise here, and I'm just going over the fret ends to bring them back to the fretboard the way. This is obviously simple. The way I do this, I've got a ground down pincers sort of thing, so the cutting edge of it is nearly on the front, and cut the frets off like vertical. Don't do it like that way round, otherwise you tend to crumple up the leg of the T and it looks untidy in the end of the fretboard. So if you just cut down on them, you keep the nice tang shape, so that gives you a good start, ready to start sanding them down. And you could do this a number of ways. You could have a you know, a flat plate of metal or wood with paper on it and file them off, but it's not, I mean, it's not the finished edge of the fret, but you see now we've got the frets all on and finished up kind of thing, which is nice. And they would be ready to, now that fretboard is ready to glue on the neck, and we haven't got any nasty fret edges when we come to like contour the neck sort of thing that we catch in your fingers or whatever, or cutting tools on the edge of frets, and A, knocking your frets out, and B, just making it damn uncomfortable to do and all that. So we're getting there with that one, and I'll carry on with this one and get back to you.